Will Yihun step into the role of the next frontman? If you're watching this video, chances are you've already watched the entire Squid Game series at least once. You've probably also come across videos claiming things like the main character will become the next frontman, he'll turn evil, and his number will change from 456 to 654, and so on. As you probably know, Gihun was an ordinary person, flawed in many ways, but with virtues that truly stand out. You don't really see that from the start, but it gradually becomes clear throughout the series as all the events unfold and shape his genuine character development. In the series, we see how, from the very beginning, he tried to protect his friends, like the moment he chose to stay with them during the protest at his workplace. He was deeply affected when one of his friends passed away after that protest. He always tries to help those close to him, even if his flaws often get in the way. We also know that in Squid Game he never sent any player to the lobby because he genuinely saw it as something wrong. He's the complete opposite of his friend Sang-woo, who at first came across as a gifted man who just had bad luck, and maybe even as a decent person, but ended up being one of the most calculating, ambitious, manipulative, and completely empathy-lacking players in the game. Now, after Yihun went through his character development, he was left emotionally shattered, but his values stayed intact. He was still a good person, and you can really see that during his conversation with Oh Il-nam, player 001, the creator of the games. Yihun heard the reason behind the games, the twisted entertainment of sick minds, and he was instantly filled with rage. He realized there was no coherent logic behind everything that had happened, just deranged people using their money for twisted pleasures. So what does becoming the new frontman actually involve? To understand this, we just have to look at what happened to the current frontman. He was once an exemplary police officer, but in trying to help his sick wife, he turned to bribery to get the money they needed. Things quickly spiraled out of control. He ended up drowning in debt, and worst of all, he couldn't save his pregnant wife. The psychological toll broke him to the point that he was willing to enter the Squid Game. Those games completely shattered him. Unlike Yihun, his values didn't survive. And since someone high up in the organization took a liking to him, he eventually joined their ranks and became the frontman. Or maybe they talked him into being the frontman by throwing a few of these gorgeous guards his way, who wouldn't stick around for that kind of treatment. So, for Yihun to become the new frontman, they would first need to break his beliefs, his values, which seems quite difficult considering everything we saw in the first season. After all, he even won the bet against the very creator of the games, proving that there are still good people in the world willing to help those who truly need it. Many argue that in the second season, the frontman is attempting to dismantle Yihun's convictions by convincing him that the organization operates in pursuit of a greater good. However, Yihun, having spoken directly with the very creator of the games, knows that such a purpose is a lie, and that everything exists solely for the sake of cruel entertainment. Logical reasoning alone wouldn't be enough to change player 456's mind. He would have to be psychologically shattered to even begin considering the role of frontman. Beyond what we've already discussed, it's important to consider that if Yihun were to become the leader, he would also have to take on the responsibilities that come with the role. So the question becomes, what exactly are the duties of the frontman? The first responsibility is organizing the games. That means making sure the right people are being brought in. After all, only those who are completely bankrupt, with no money and no way to get it, or drowning in unpayable debt are supposed to participate. The second responsibility is overseeing the games to ensure everything unfolds according to plan. That includes supervising the staff, and yes, personally watching every contestant walk through the lobby, every one of them except the final winner. And finally, he's expected to welcome the VIPs during the final rounds of the games. He has to protect them from any threats and likely witness some of the disturbing things they routinely do in their private lounge. All of this is the kind of work Yihun would undoubtedly refuse to do, at least up until the end of Season 2. Maybe 456 does end up becoming the frontman, but only if the script takes a wild turn. And let's be honest, there are already moments in Season 2 that feel like straight-up plot armor. That's exactly why so many fans are trying to make sense of it all, through the theory we're discussing in this video. But hold on, we'll get to that in just a moment. Why does the theory that Yihun will be the new frontman exist? It might have started as simple fan rumors, fueled by their eagerness to see more of the popular series. But the show itself has dropped enough clues to suggest that Yihun stepping up as the new leader is a real possibility. Let's start with Yihun's meeting with Oh Il-nam. Sure, Yihun won the Squid Game, but that doesn't mean just anyone could get a private audience with the game's creator. What's really interesting is that Oh Il-nam chose to see him as he approached the end of his journey, which suggests he felt a special connection to Yihun. And there's more. The old man seemed ready to spill some big secrets about the organization. Too bad he didn't get the chance. Just as player 456 wins their bet, Mama Coco comes to take him to the lobby. If Oh-il-nam had lived a little longer, who knows? Maybe he would have offered Gihun a position in the organization. Then again, we'll never know what that role might have been. Now, onto the second point. After Yihun decides not to get on the plane at the end of Season 1, they don't send him to the lobby. And that's kind of odd, right? Because if he had boarded, it would have been game over for him. So why didn't they try to take him out after that? Here's my theory. Before reaching the end of his life, Oh-il-nam might have left instructions to keep an eye on 456 and test him to see if he was worthy of joining the organization. Yeah, it kind of sounds like a forced storyline, but if you think of it as a final trial, it actually makes some sense. And finally, something curious. The leader doesn't send Yihun to the lobby, even when he has him in his grasp. This happens in Season 2, when Yihun agrees to get in the frontman's car after being caught at that supposed secret meeting. At that point, the protagonist is completely at his mercy, but they don't eliminate him. And not even after they put him to sleep. Instead, they grant his request and let him take part in the new games. Maybe they really do see something special in him. But what could it be? It's clear that the organization does have a certain interest in Yihun. But if his values don't change, he won't become the frontman. The only moment where Yihun truly falters is when, instead of protecting his teammates marked with an X, he chooses to abandon them and use a small group of players to confront the game's soldiers. In doing so, he basically sacrifices many innocent people who might have been saved had he used defensive strategies like the ones we saw in the first season. On top of that, the small team that joins Yihun takes on a mission with an extremely high risk of ending up in the lobby. So honestly, his decision might have been one of the worst. Some might even say it feels like a plot convenience. Now, if he manages to defeat the organization, it could mean the end of the games, a greater good, since the ones responsible would be out of the picture. But here's the catch. Even if he takes out everyone present, he'll never get to the VIPs. They only show up on the island at the very end of the tournament. If they find out the games were disrupted, they simply won't come. That means Yihun's plan falls apart, because the games will continue the following year, just in a different location, since the ones funding all of it are still alive. And to make things worse, the VIPs will know exactly who was behind it, and Yihun will become a clear target. Most likely, they'll send him straight to the lobby. Anyway, I'm getting off track. So with all that said, could Yihun really become the next frontman? Honestly, I don't think so. He's set on taking the organization down, not working for it. He's nothing like the current leader, who, for reasons still unknown, completely changed his values. So far, Yihun has stayed true to his principles, even during intense moments, like the ending of Season 2. Despite being ready to cross over to the afterlife, it was the elderly player who gave him the strength to keep going. That's why I doubt he'll ever take on the role of frontman. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts making more extreme choices to reach his goal. But becoming a lapdog for the VIPs? Yeah, that's clearly not part of his plan. In fact, he made that very clear to the recruiter during their life-or-death game of Russian roulette. In conclusion, chances are Yihun will never become the frontman. But hey, you never know. Sometimes even the wildest theories turn out to be true.